Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. I'm usually here in the morning with Edwin Eisendrath, but we pushed this till 1 p.m. because we have a special show for you today. I'm Susan Demas, the executive editor here at Lincoln Square. And before we get into it with two really, really great thinkers on the Democratic side, I just want to take a little bit of time to thank you all for being here. It's a special day for us on Lincoln Square. We launched just over 6 months ago, if you can believe it. And in that time, we have amassed over 11,000 paid subscribers right here on Substack. We've become a bestseller here, and it's really all because of you. I am just so happy for you all to join us today. Even though we're a growing community, we still love to see our day ones with us in the chat. We recognize your names whenever you pop up. So thank you so much for being here. You really inspire us all. And today we're really celebrating you. We're going to have some really great announcements later on in the day, which I hope you stay tuned for. We'll have a special edition of strategy session coming up at 5 p.m. And then we'll also have a little celebration behind the scenes with some of our staff here. They're the folks that make all this happen. So I hope that'll be fun for you. And then we'll have Anchor Watch with Bobby Jones, and Maya May from Punching Up will be joining him at 7 o'clock. So before we get into a little more on that, I do want to welcome our special guest today. We have Joe Trippi, who, of course, is a legendary Democratic strategist. He is a senior advisor to the Lincoln Project, and he also writes for us all the time for Lincoln Square. And you've seen him almost every week on Strategy Session. So thanks so much for joining us today, Joe.
Great to be with you on such a great day to celebrate.
And Edwin Eisendrath and I usually talk at 11, as I said. We talk about the news of the week, but this time we decided that we would get Joe in the mix and really get into some of the issues of the day. But you know Edwin from his show right here in Lincoln Square. It's The Democracy Stupid. That will be moving to Fridays this week. And he also hosts a radio show in Chicago. He's been involved in Democratic politics for decades and is the former CEO of the Chicago Sun-Times. Edwin, thanks so much for being here as well.
Yep. And Susan, congratulations on the amazing growth here at Lincoln Square. I mean, it speaks to the country's appetite for, a place they can go when they are deeply concerned about the country and want to get something that isn't corporate self-centered garbage.
Well, I really appreciate that.
And self-censored. Sorry, censored garbage.
From the media these days.
Yeah. And as both of you know, I've spent most of my career, working for the mainstream media, and I've worked for tremendous people, and I'm proud of the work I've done. But really, I can't imagine being anywhere else in this moment in time, because I really feel that pro-democracy, independent media is exactly what we need at this moment. And Joe and Edwin, you've helped build this with all of us. So it's great to be with you. I thought that we would start with the media, which of course is one of my favorite topics, and start with the big news that broke late yesterday that Jimmy Kimmel is coming back. And so I wanted to start with you, Joe. Do you feel like this is an example of not giving up and really the fact that even in these times where Trump is trying to march us ever forward to autocracy, that people can stand up and make a difference?
Well, it's both things. One, yes, people can stand up and make a difference. I think they did with Jimmy Kimmel, but this isn't over.
Right.
Both Sinclair and Nexstar are not going to air. They're going to preempt the Jimmy Kimmel show. And again, that'll be, the fight isn't over. We have to start, I think, literally, I think I can't remember who, Galloway yesterday started to say that he thinks that economic boycotts are going to be really needed to really stop this kind of stuff. And right now, that is what I think Nexstar and Sinclair are trying to do on the right. There's force economic pressure on Disney and ABC by not airing. Now, the difference is Nexstar and Sinclair are very small ABC. They have like 13% and 8% of ABC stations make up. That's all the rest. The other like 75% of ABC affiliates are not in either of those two networks. So I think if ABC is holds strong, it will be Sinclair and Nexstar that have to break. Because one of the other things that happens is as those affiliates have network contracts, and they have to air those shows, and they can only preempt it so many times before they will force fines and problems with basically fall out of standing with their network status. So if ABC wants to stand strong, it can, and it can win this fight. But I think we have to be there and take on Sinclair, Nexstar, and say no, we're not going to stand up for it. If you're in those, find out if you're in an area where Nexstar or Sinclair owns an ABC affiliate, and if you do, call the station, raise holy hell that Kimmel's not on.
Yeah. And my friends who have worked in TV, and Edwin, I'm sure you know this as well, that's a very effective way to pressure these affiliates, because if you're going to them directly, that's the on the ground pressure. Yeah. But of course, this is bigger than just, a fight between different corporations. Yeah. I mean, you had the Trump administration putting its finger on the scale and, basically saying months ago that this was the play. Trump said, I want Jimmy Kimmel fired. And you have, Disney that's interested in doing a merger and is dependent on getting approval from the Trump administration. So this isn't really cancel culture. This is the government getting involved in what we should all see. Yeah. Edwin, what do you make of all this?
Well, a lot, actually. Nexstar and Sinclair, Joe's right. They don't make up a huge part of the ABC affiliate world, but they make up a huge part of television in the United States, right? And Nexstar has a merger, and Trump's got his thumb on them to get it. And Sinclair is just owned by guys like Fox. They're just a right-wing. Yeah. This is what they do for a living.
But honestly, it's to some degree, they're more effective because a lot of people trust their local news
station. That's exactly right. And I think we have to, once again, as a country, rethink media consolidation laws that has allowed the wealthy right wing to buy up so much of the voices that people hear in America. It's dangerous, and they certainly are doing it through the online platforms as well as through broadcast and through cable, and it's very, very dangerous. So that's sort of point one. Point two is it's coming from the White House, which is what you raised, and everybody's seen this dance who's looked at what happened in Europe. You get an autocrat, they say to their rich friends, buy up and consolidate the media, and by the way, we'll tell everybody what to do with other pressure, and you end up with a country that cannot. I mean, we still can find the truth in our country. There's no question. There's great journalists out there, but you have to look for it because you're being force-fed such crap all the time by the White House and their friends who now own these huge, huge networks.
No, and the algorithms on those networks actually move that information away from you. It's harder. Yep. You can find it, but you have to, as you said,
you have to look for it. Yeah.
But you're right. I mean, now Sinclair, the chairman of Sinclair, is just bought the Baltimore Sun several months ago.
A great paper.
And you see them now with the TikTok deal. Is another massive network and they're saying they're going to keep the same algorithm, which means, guess what? Young girls will still be body shamed, bullied, and all the other stuff that's already going on TikTok. And forget about national security and all that. There's all kinds. That algorithm is is
dangerous.
Just really dangerous.
I mean, you pick your issue, Joe. National security, absolutely. How about rule of law? Congress said TikTok should be shut down. The Supreme Court said that's perfectly legit. And Donald Trump said, yeah, no, I need to bully it to get it to my friends in the media.
Yeah.
So all these things that we care about are on display. And when we talk about the media, because the media is very important for politics, but it's part of a political landscape that is too fragile and too weak to stand up to an autocrat who has the power of the American government behind him.
And, we've talked for years about, the marketplace of ideas, and that's a very, highfalutin term. But what we've seen is that these far-right ideas are not winning in the marketplace of ideas. And so you have these right-wing billionaires, they keep buying up companies, or billionaires are willingly co-opted, like Mark Zuckerberg at Facebook, who, sees that Trump's in power, so he'll give him a bribe like everyone else and show up at the White House and do his dog and pony show. Joe, I'm going to paraphrase you, but you say this all the time. As far as the right goes, they buy, we rent. We being, the pro-democracy,
they own
Democrats, right? They own, we rent, and that seems to be really a huge problem for us at this point, because our ideas are getting drowned out, and we don't have the mechanisms to make sure that we can communicate.
No, so they own the algorithm, they own the station, they own the network. So yes, I'm sure many Democratic campaigns, and they must buy ads on Sinclair's local stations. If you're in a congressional race, that's what you're going to do.
Right.
So they own that station. We buy their ads, rent the time. Meanwhile, their anchor and their reporters are saying Democrats suck. In so many different ways. And by the way, people, as you said, Susan, people trust their local reporting more than they trust any of the national stuff. So they keep getting the sort of right-wing slant attacks on Democrats. We're renting that time with ads that people don't trust at all, no matter who's running them. Compared to a local journalist or a station. So they own, we rent, and that's what they own. X. Looks like they're going to own TikTok. That won't be a whole lot better than the Chinese owning it, and could be a hell of a lot worse. It probably is. Again, they'll take the profits, and like I said, Sinclair's chairman buying the Baltimore Sun. So you just have this growing. They own more and more and more of the media space, and are bullying the Disney, ABC, whoever that's not owned by them, and they hold their FCC license ransom to shut people up, or the threat of it, and so that's why it's going to be. Edwin's right. You can find the truth, but it's going to be increasingly harder and harder to find. That's why I think Lincoln Square. Says us, the social network that I'm trying to make a civil place for human beings that it's
really nice. You don't get yelled at when you go on Says Us.
Yeah. So it's, but again, it's us. We have to be you who are watching are the ones that make Lincoln Square possible. We have to build our own network, pro-democracy social network, our own pro-democracy platforms like Lincoln Square and others. And so that's really important to build and support, because it's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately, on the media landscape, that is. But again, you do have a voice there too. Call your local stations, fight this stuff back with your voice.
And
it's going to get worse in the media landscape. It's going to get worse in the legal landscape, with the Supreme Court continuing to do its damage. It's going to get worse in the electoral landscape with the gerrymandering, and undoubtedly the use of ICE troops to try and reduce turnout in neighborhoods where they can say, oh, we're trying to stop illegals voting. We are in a very tough place. But the lesson I think that we have to take from this is that there's an old memory and muscle memory that progressive movements in America had for years, and we forgot it. We outsourced our work to lawyers and the legal system after the Warren Court did such amazing things. We have to organize. We have to get out there. We have to organize online. We have to organize in person. We have to show up. We have to support each other. And you know what? We have to tell each other the truth. We have to tell the news, all of us. And we're starting to do that again. And it feels great to be using that muscle again. And to show up at a rally, at a No Kings rally a few months ago, and getting ready for the next one with people you don't know, people who you don't agree with about everything, but you agree with about the most important things. And it's a fabulous thing that America's doing and you see it in the poll numbers. They control everything, and they're losing the hearts and minds of the American people as fast as they possibly can. And by the way, if anybody sat through Donald Trump's speech to the UN today, as I did, they'll lose them even faster.
Yeah, I mean, that is an excellent point. And I think that was one of the missteps for Disney, is that there's this perception that, because Trump keeps proclaiming himself to be all powerful, that somehow he is, and people are just going along with it. But the polling tells a much different story. And the millions of angry subscribers to Disney Plus and, the viewers and ABC told a completely different story.
Yep.
And so let's talk a little bit about what we can do in this moment when Trump, his numbers are falling on immigration, on the economy, on foreign policy. How do we make the most of this?
Joe?
Well, look, I want to pay some homage to Michael Eisner, who, when everybody else kept their mouth shut, actually stood up and said, where the hell is all the leadership gone about what happened at ABC, Disney, and Kimmel? And I think it had a big impact because on the decision of ABC and Disney. And I think that's what I think this is happening now. As each person steps out and says, no, I'm not afraid, I'm going to speak out. And no one thought he would. I mean, what I mean by homage to him is I think that'll create other leaders out there to come out from undercover and start saying what they believe. And we have an ability to put that pressure on more and more of them to do it. And I think that's what this moment is. I mean, I agree with Edwin. It's organize. When we ran the Dean campaign, I know that's ancient history, 2004, but I remember something I'll never forget. Neil Abercrombie, who was then the governor of Hawaii, emailed me and says, do you have any idea what the hell you're doing? Well, yeah, we had some. And I was like, trying to understand, what do you mean? He goes, you're allowing people to have faith in strangers again. It's what Edwin said. Right. You show up at that No Kings rally, people didn't know. You may not agree with them on everything, and they were strangers 10 minutes ago before you showed up, but now you're having faith in each other again. That is a major thing that has to build in this country. And it starts with all of us. Again, building that faith in strangers, having the conversations, getting organized, organizing everywhere in every precinct, and giving people that faith that we all are in this together in terms of the future of this country, and come join us, instead of the loud, divisive voice of a despicable president that drives a lot of people through fear. And I think this moment, because they are over, part of what I think has happened, by the way, Susan, you're right. All the polls show that particularly independents have started to move big away from, or bigly, as somebody might say it, away from Trump and MAGA, in huge numbers. I mean, like something like 73%. I mean, those kind of numbers disapprove. Only 23% favorable among independents, kind of numbers. Which drags him down to 39% nationally, because a lot of Republicans still, will let him shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and think he must have had a good reason. But my point is that all started happening as the Epstein story broke, and then and sort of, I think, sort of snowballed the ICE and other things that have been going on. And I think what happened is around that same time as the independence broke and as favorables dropped below 40 was all of a sudden when the phone call to Texas, I need you to go grab me 5 seats. It was when they actually started to really put the National Guard into more cities. And I think in preparation for what Edwin's talking about,
Mhm.
it sped up his authoritarian grab and in terms of trying to rig the next election and be in position to steal it. I think I actually think they may not have thought they need it. Put it this way: if everything was working great, inflation was going down, people really were happy because they got exactly what he promised them. I'm sure they wouldn't be grabbing try to grab 5 districts
Right.
midterm,
Yeah.
middle of the decade in Texas and in a bunch of other states now. No, this is all out of desperation to use their power as much as they can to grab absolute power, and they're going to do everything they can, including ICE around the ballot boxes, saying they're just there to make sure illegals can't vote, but harassing everybody and trying to get turnout down.
The dynamic of this accelerates in both directions, which is very dangerous, but ultimately why we're going to win. Because Joe's right, they didn't think they could do this legit, so they put this extra pressure on. But this extra pressure, the troops in the cities, all of it drives people away from them because Americans don't like it. So the gap is going to get bigger, and they're going to get more desperate. And we're going to get to this. We've already gotten to this dangerous place. We're going to get to a place where suddenly it's going to become clear what's side you pick a side. There is no, and the vast majority of Americans are going to pick one side.
Yeah.
I mean, if Democrats are careful, and if we're smart, and if we really believe in the big tent here, as opposed to some strongly held beliefs that by the way, I'm on both sides of the Democratic tent. But if we believe in this big tent and we welcome everybody else, there is a large governing majority to be cobbled together in America that supports democracy. And that if with a little help, people will understand how the democracy piece actually makes the economics better. Right? Because then you don't have the corporate powers merging and owning everything and controlling your life. You get lower prices. You get all kinds of benefits when you have real democratic governance. We can put that coalition together if we get out there and we organize and we stand with people we don't agree about everything, and we say, let's get back to the country we love.
Well, also, Edwin, I mean, the reality is if we build the big tent and we're in power, you can negotiate with the people in the big tent.
Yes, of course.
We can have a disagreement, but we'll find the way forward together. We can't negotiate with the authoritarian, Republican Party right now. No way. But the interesting thing, I want to point this out, is because I think this gets to the sort of the problem of where Trump is right now, and why you're right about how the more desperate, the more it gets pushed. The people get pushed away. One of the scariest, weird, strange numbers I've seen in a poll recently was they asked Republicans whether ICE had done enough. Was it tough enough? Was it strong enough? Was the actions taking enough? Or did it need to get even stronger and more brutal? Or just right? And 31% of Republicans said, no, man, it's got to be tougher than this. And they still need to get those people out. So this is why I think this is where I saw those numbers. And then like 3 days later, Alligator Alcatraz happened. And I'm thinking, oh, Alligator Alcatraz is to feed the 31%. But when you feed that 31%, guess what started to happen? Independents started to move. And so now he's got exactly the problem that Edwin's laid out here for if you're Trump is, they still got to feed that really rabid part of their base, that he energized, probably the people that send him money to buy his hats and all that stuff. and at the same time do it somehow, some way, that it doesn't offend everybody else. So what do? You go after Jimmy Kimmel. That'll feed my base.
Right. He wanted to deport Rosie O'Donnell. That was one of his early distractions after the Epstein files really started to explode. Yeah. And that's been his play. You know, he tries to suck all the oxygen out of the news cycle. He makes everything about him. But in these times when inflation is going up, when we're all paying the price for tariffs, everything being about him is not really a benefit. And Edwin, we were talking a little bit before we came on, and I wanted to talk a little more because we are part of the pro-democracy movement, the pro-democracy media, and that, you know, and in the words of your show, you know, that's it. That's the ball game. It's the democracy, stupid. But I do think that there are better ways that we can make the case on why we need to fight for democracy and what that means for the economy, for your healthcare, for foreign policy. And so let's talk about how to strategize effectively, because it seems right now that a lot of leadership in the Democratic Party still, you know, is not really connecting the two. And what we see all the time from our audience is that that's what they want to see. They want to see that kind of leadership.
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't teach civics anymore. We don't really engage this way, but it's worth just saying to people, look, just take a state that's completely gerrymandered. And in a world of Citizens United, the elected officials are going to work for the money and the map makers. And if they were working for the money and the map makers, they're not working for you. If they were working for you, would they be so happy to have tariffs that you pay for and they don't? You know, if they were working for you, would they allow all these companies to merge so they have massive power to raise prices on you rather than compete? We make those connections. Democracy is a wonderful idea, but that means the people in the government are working for you. And to the extent that today you feel like they're not working for you, that tells you how far we've gotten away from this because of gerrymandering, radical gerrymandering, and Citizens United and things like that. And if we make that case well, and we make it well, then the democracy fight and the economics fight and the social justice fight, then they're suddenly all aligned. And that, I think, is a very powerful thing.
Well, that is, people are getting that. They are, I mean, the interesting thing is that, again, I think with the another poll that came out a day or two ago, but when you asked what's the most important issue and concern you have, it's now among Democrats, the threat to democracy, number one, and the economy, number two. And actually, healthcare was like fifth or sixth on the list because the other two have grown so much. With independents, it's the economy first, and right there, right next to it, equal almost, is the threat to democracy, and then all the others, immigration, crime, in really small pieces. On the Republican side, it's still like 25% of the threat to democracy. I mean, it's now, and much more crime, immigration, and the big drumbeat that Trump and the right are pounding on. But it is huge, the shift and the realization that democracy is being threatened. And again, I think it's Trump's actions. It's going after the First Amendment, freedom of the press, picking up people with no due
process. Ham-handed, thuggish, heavy, impossible to ignore. I mean, if we're gonna have a foil out there trying to be a dictator, boy, he is certainly showing he's doing everything we could ask, right?
Yeah.
We should do none of it, but.
So I think Edwin, you're right. It's tying the two in a way that says it's, they're doing all these things not for, and they're not making democracy work for you. They're making, they know how to make the system work for themselves.
Right.
Rig it so you don't have a voice,
So let me go back to something, just to back up a little bit, Susan. You talked about the past chairman of Disney, Michael Eisner, stepping up and being brave, and giving giving permission to other CEOs and former CEOs to step out there. I am waiting for Jamie Dimon I may wait forever, right? But like the leader of the biggest bank in America to say the tariffs are hurting Americans. I'm waiting for, he's quietly hoping maybe the courts will say they're illegal. But come on, let's not put pressure on these corporate leaders to stand up in public and say what they're telling their investors in private. We need this now.
Well, also, but it gets back to the no king stuff, thing when you're talking about if 20 million Americans stand out there in October, there'll be more Michael Eisners. Even the courts, even some judges might say, "Wait a minute, I got to start paying attention to this." And I'm sure, by the way, even some Republican members of the House and the Senate would have a little bit more. Right now, they're more afraid of Trump, and that's that's the crazy thing about this. We, the people, actually have this massive power.
Massive. But when we go out and we can't, like the No Kings rallies we have here, march from one government plaza to the other government plaza. A half a block away is JP Morgan Chase's building. Maybe we'll walk around that this time and just say, stand up for America and see what happens.
Yeah, I think that a real difference with Trump's second term versus his first term was that we did see a lot more leaders, whether they were corporate leaders or Democratic Party leaders, who were standing up and trying to lead the charge against his excesses. Now I feel like we're leading from behind, and we are pushing our leaders into having to be brave. And, maybe that is for the best, because we've lost a lot of connection. This is something both of you have talked about a lot. And I think that it's something we don't talk about nearly enough. Getting to know your neighbors, not having these ridiculous fights with people online, especially with people who largely agree with you, building trust again. And so maybe it's necessary, because so much of that has been broken, for it to be a movement that's really powered by people, as opposed to, leadership in Congress, and they'll move when we move them.
Absolutely. I mean, that's what I'm saying. In the retrenchment of our leaders, or the sort of like staying quiet or whatever, it gets more of them to be more afraid of Trump than afraid of the consequences of the people. And we've got to raise those stakes. And I think they are raising, and some of it,
they're getting there. Yep.
They're overreaching. But the more we raise those stakes, the more that retrenchment starts spiraling the other way. When they become more afraid of us than they are of Trump, and they realize he's weak and desperate, and we're strong and rising, that will turn the tide. That's what has to happen. And you're right, Susan. The reality is, most people aren't arguing with their friends; they're arguing with bots.
Yeah.
And their arguments are being spun to people who are the enemy. To create that enemy divide thing. And that's why, we have to create our own information distribution systems, our own networks, our own pro-democracy communications, and our own pro-democracy social networks. And that's why I think the Lincoln Square, Says Us, and others. There are other people out there building things, but it's time we owned and stopped renting. At least where people know if they come, they're not going to get a bunch of garbage with no backup on the arguments that we need to be making, and how they need to think about how to organize, how to push back, and how to stand up. And right now, it really is time to stand up America and get people out there.
And we are. I think the last place we're going to see it is Congress and the Senate. Right, the last place. But in the rest of the country, we're seeing it, and I'm very proud of the organizing that's going on, that of the local electeds, but also just the people who are out there saying, "Where do I go? How do I stand up? What can I do next?" Well, it's fabulous.
There was another. I hate to keep going after the polls, but the fascinating one was 67% of Americans said they would protest. They're at the place where they want to protest, and then they ask, well, why haven't you? I don't know where to go. No one asked
Right.
me. I have all these different. So you're the people. You are the people that can tell them, here's where to go. Follow me. Start organizing your own little group, your friends, your email list, and
Yep.
get them to the next No Kings rally, or get them to just start watching Lincoln Square or Substacks that are giving you the Lincoln Square Substack, that give you, stuff that you can send around to people and
Right.
try to get them to get more engaged and understand the threat.
And you know what,
And
Susan, Americans look at this and they hear, the kinds of things that are talked about. And there's a sense that this is not just meeting a need, but there's a genuineness to the things that we're talking about and the real people. And I probably shouldn't say this name, but I'm going to anyway. Charlie Kirk. You remember him? Because he was yesterday's news. Like nobody, like this week, he's like America's already forgetting about him. And you're gonna, for next week, nobody's going to know that name. But they're not going to hold on to it, because you cannot always invent this moment and pretend that it's legit, that it's real, that it has passion amongst the people, that they care about it, that they're going to go out and march for it, that they're going to go fight for it, and that it's going to last. What they do on the other side is they got a flash in the pan one week, and then they got to invent another one the next week, and then they got to get another one the third week. And I just don't think that beats genuine concerns over time, which is what we're trying to do.
And frankly, it's exhausting. And that's something that we hear from all of you a lot, is how exhausted you are. And we totally get it. But that's why, if you read our weekly newsletter, the Lincoln Log that comes out every Saturday morning, it's for our paid subscribers. We tell you you're exhausted. Here's what you can do to fight back. Click here if you want to go to the No Kings protest on October 18th. Click here if you want to contact your member of Congress. Here are some concrete things that you can do. And that's something that we try and do, as because this isn't just a media outlet. We're building a community here. And that's so important. I want to.
The other side's exhausted too, Susan. Yeah, so let's just stick it out a little longer. We will get over this hill, and we're going to find they've run away. I
do want to ask both of you, because we have a looming spending crisis going on in Washington. And what I have been hearing on the Democratic side is that they are terrified at the idea of shutting down the government, because there's the very noble idea of trying to keep things running. There's a lot of pain. A lot of people get hurt in government shutdowns. I've covered them. You guys have been, there for bad government shutdowns. This is not an ideal outcome. But what Trump and MAGA are demanding on that side is the price to keep the government open. That seems to be worth fighting against. What are you hearing in terms of what Democrats might do, and what should we all be doing in this moment so that we don't see another victory for Trump here?
Well, I mean, look, I think, you saw, I think today Trump said he won't meet with the Democratic leadership.
Right.
I mean, right there, it's like, that's actually another gift. I mean, it's like, okay, we wanted to come to some kind of an agreement, but he won't even talk to us. How can we vote for this crap? So I actually think it helps open a big door to play hardball and for reality, and say, no, we're not going to fund this administration. On the other hand, the one thing I think is a legit concern, and I'm for basically, hey, you guys have the majority. You want to keep it open without discussion or anything. That's your vote. We're not doing it. The one concern that is a real one is that he's already done so much damage to so many of these departments that they will gleefully use the shutdown to demolish even more of them. Mm. But my own view on that is, again, I think that kind of overreach, that kind of like literally destroying the government, that they'd be doing, actively taking steps to do. it would be worth the reality of dealing straight up with no, we're not. We're going to say no to letting this continue. But I don't know, Edwin.
Joe, I completely agree with you. Look, the Democrats are being asked by the administration to vote for spending, for a particular set of spending to go forward. But they're being asked to vote for it under the condition that, A, the president can ignore their spending vote, and he can come back when there's not a supermajority needed and rescind any of the spending. We made a deal not that long ago, a couple months ago, to do a continuing resolution with these guys. And guess what happened? The president said, now that I've got the money, it's my purse. I'm going to do whatever I want with it. I don't care what you say.
Not to mention
Democrats can't all do that. Nobody can do that. That's not a vote on a budget. That's a vote to empower a king who says, this is my purse, and Congress has nothing to say about it. That absolutely is not a vote any of them can take.
Right. And not to mention the fact that when Trump came into office, right away, he wanted to nullify spending that Congress had already voted on, which is...
Well, then he did.
Right. And he got slapped down in the courts because it's illegal.
Well, there's still...
so far. But our friends at the Supreme Court have had a nasty habit of changing the Constitution in secret and not bothering to put their names on it. A real brave bunch. Real brave bunch.
Absolutely. Joe, I want to go ahead and give you both the last word. What would you like to tell the folks out there about what we're doing right now with the pro-democracy fight, and what can they do?
I keep saying this, a very simple ask. If you are following Lincoln Square, if you're on a social network like Says Us, the most important thing you can do, or going to the No Kings rally in October, the most important thing you can do is find one more friend, one more coworker, one more family member. Get them to draw. You're what's going to grow the pro-democracy movement. You have that power. You can't lose faith in it. You have amazing power. We saw that with the Jimmy Kimmel reaction. It is to find others and bring them here, or to some other. I mean, basically get them engaged. Get them to come to the No Kings. Have fun at the No Kings protest, and get more people involved in that. If you went with 4 people at the last one, bring 8. Everybody go double yourselves. That's how we're going to win this thing. It's like we go from 12 million to 24 million. Trust me, the corporate
will notice.
Will notice, and so will some electeds that would have been hiding will get that this is not going away, and it's going to get a lot worse for them if they let it continue to grow in a way that they get demolished in 2026. But we've got to start now. We're building. Edwin's right; it's already happening. But you're the power. You're the force behind this, and it's simple ask: one more friend, one coworker, one family member. Just double yourself this week, and then next week double us again. And the pro-democracy.
That's good math.
Yeah.
Edwin?
Look, I want every American to think that they are standing in Independence Hall in 1776. John Hancock has signed that document and handed you the pen, right? And you're just standing there with the pen. And, Ben Franklin leans over and whispers into your ear, look, we are all going to hang, together, or we're going to hang by ourselves. So you might as well sign it and do the right thing and move this country forward. And if you do that, you know what you're going to do next? You're going to go out and bring 4 more people to the No Kings rally, because that's what happens when you commit. So it's time to commit.
Well, I so appreciate both of you joining us. And I just wanted to let everyone at home know at 5 p.m. we will have strategy session. Michael Fanone will be joining us. And he, of course, was a police officer on January 6th and has become just such a profound voice for democracy in these times. He will be joining Rick and Stuart. And then at 7 o'clock, we've got Anchor Watch with 2 of your favorites, Bobby Jones and Maya May. If you could bring that one up, great. And we will have some announcements about our future shows coming up here on Lincoln Square. Thank you so much for being part of our discussion today. We appreciate all of your comments at home. If you have not become a paid subscriber to Lincoln Square, it's not too late. You can still join in on the fun later on today. Go ahead and click the subscribe button up there on your screen. And for all of you who have already done that, we can't thank you enough. You have helped build this with us every step of the way. And we'll look forward to seeing you in a little bit. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks all.